Welcome to TNT, baby, the naked truth with Taylor Armstrong, where I'm going to expose everything about my life. And my guests are going to come on, get naked with me, and bear it all. Now, let's get naked. So super excited to have you here today, Donette.
I'm
Palmore.
excited.
Yes, I'm excited for so many reasons. First of all, your Money on Purpose coaching is definitely what all of us could use. But secondarily, my daughter is going away to college, and I think she needs some serious Your Money on Purpose training. So I have so many questions. I don't even know where to start. But tell me about your Money on Purpose coaching and how you got involved in that.
Yeah, we do a lot of things out of our own experience, right? Experience is the best teacher. And so I would say about 11 years ago, we were making the most money we have ever made. And I looked up and said, where the hell is it all at? What are we doing with this money?
Can you relate to that? Can you relate to that at all? Because I mean, I can't imagine.
Right?
Sounds like my life.
So I was like, okay, I got to do some research. We got to get a hold of this. Like, we're making good money to not have anything to show for it. And so I found some systems and processes that made it simple and easy and doable. And I put them into practice and dug us out of $56,000 of debt. We have retirement. We have a savings. We just bought our second house. And above all, we taught our children really good money habits.
Amazing.
I know, right? You're like, well, nice to be doing so awesome.
That is
Help me.
incredible. That's so
Yeah.
motivational. So when you say we, I assume that's you
Yes,
and your partner.
My husband
Your
and
partner.
I,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Okay. And do you do business together, or is that
We've done
separate?
several businesses together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, we do a catering business together, but my coaching business is just me. So I do all the coaching. And I just wanted to really share this piece that I got with having my money in order with people, women especially, and bring financial independence to women.
I feel like that's what we were just talking about. Like, I mean, of course, we all had different ways of looking at it, but we're just talking about coaching and mentorship and how that affects you in your life. And even like to separate it to like, okay, this is my motivational coach. This is my money coach. Because sometimes if you don't have somebody who's a professional in all the different aspects that like, say you could bring to somebody's life, like in actually organizing their finances. But I do think you do need mentorship in every aspect of life. And I think you have like a hard knock story too, where you were like, I don't know what I was doing. And then when I learned, my life got so good and I accomplished all my goals. Like all now I want to do is help other people do the same thing so that they don't feel trapped by their finances anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you said to your husband, we're gonna totally work on our finances, was that a yes, I'm all in? Or was it because the word budget is a terrible
Yeah,
scary
and
word
we
to
don't
me.
use that word, and we don't use that word. I do not use the word budget. We use spending plan because we make a plan with our money.
Okay, spending
I
plan
actually
sounds
like
so
that.
much better.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, he's on board with just about anything I do. He is the best.
Okay, well, good.
Aw.
He's like, just go ahead and do it.
You of all people could probably attest to the fact that money and parenting are probably the two biggest things people fight about in a relationship. And so when one person's on board with changing your financial structure or your financial planning, then the other person doesn't come along for the ride. I
Yeah.
can imagine that would be a very rocky road.
Yes, and it
Mm.
happens often, right? It
Yeah.
does happen
How often?
a
Like
lot.
like 7 out of 10.
I don't
like,
know the exact
I mean-
statistics, but just with my coaching and with
With
my
your coaching
clients,
people you meet. Like
yeah,
how
it's
often?
like they're not on board. I had one client married 34 years,
Yeah.
okay, and they didn't talk about money. 1 year he would do it, 1 year she would do it, and they called it the little black book. And they just passed it off. They didn't question what each other was doing.
That's wild.
And they just went that way for 34 years.
oh my
And
gosh.
then after working together, like they were dreaming, they paid off all kinds of debt. They had all their short-term savings funded. They doubled their retirement. Like it was amazing when they got
Yeah.
on board with each other.
Amazing.
that
But
must
what
make you feel so good.
What did they write in the little black book?
It was their whatever they did with their
Expenses?
finances.
So like this year I get to choose, and next
This is
year
what I
you get to
did.
choose.
Here you go.
You know,
This
that
is what I
sounds
did.
kind of
Yeah.
like politics. It gets handed over, and you get the book, and you're like, "What the hell did you do last year?" It's getting ranked.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like,
I've never heard of a structure like that. Okay, then what about your
That's
kids?
crazy.
When you said we're gonna create this new financial trajectory, were the kids like, no?
No, they actually didn't fight me on it. And I started implementing it slowly with them. So a couple of things I did was like, okay, when we go out to eat, I'm not going to pay for your drink anymore. If you want a drink, you have to pay for it out of your commission.
Mhm.
So I did pay my kids a commission and not allowance. So
Yeah.
they earn money, an amount based on things they did.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so wait a minute. I've never heard this before. Okay, because that is so intriguing. Okay, because this is the thing with me with allowance, right? It's like, oh, you do this and this, like you make $20. So how does the commission structure work?
Well, it's the same as if you work. If you
Yeah.
don't work, you don't get paid.
Right.
So commission is the same way. If you don't do it,
But
you
is it
don't
like
get paid.
commission because you should be doing it anyway because you live
No,
here?
so there was two separate things. There was like commission for certain things,
Right.
like picking up dog poop or doing
Right.
things that everybody contributed to.
Right.
But then there was things they did because they were part of our family, which is clean your room.
Right.
You
Right.
didn't get money for that, or maybe cooking dinner or something like that.
Right. Oh, I love that.
I
I
do
like that
too.
idea of it not being like an allowance, like you're allowed this. I don't know why that never sat right with me. So that's actually like a cool thing.
Yeah.
Like my dad would give me $75 a week when I was a kid.
Wow.
But he bought no groceries and never went shopping, and we had nothing in the house, and our refrigerator was literally a mini fridge from like not because he couldn't afford a refrigerator, because he just didn't go buy a refrigerator. It was like an office fridge plugged in the refrigerator spot in the house. Why? Like literally, you're like a multimillionaire. Like here, we're just gonna plug this in,
Well,
and
you
then
have
he'd
to
buy
think
peanut butter.
Think about what he came from. Well, peanut butter is a good protein.
I know that's it. He'd be like, eat some peanut
What a
butter,
good value.
Cheerios and peanut butter. That's like it. That was the
Right.
contribution. So he gave me $75. But if I wanted to like clean the toilet, I went out and bought my own Lysol and like took care of everything like out of that $75. So it
Yeah.
was like kind of crazy. But I think that's what rubbed me wrong with the allowance.
Yeah. The allowance and budget, I think,
Could-
feel
yes,
like they have
budget
a
is-
negative
yes,
connotation.
they
a little
do.
Bit.
Oh
So the
my God.
commission is based on things that you suggest, and if they make a decision to go through with it, then somebody gets the commission in the house.
Or do they have to do it?
Yes, so I would have a list of what they were supposed to do each day of the week and how much that particular thing was worth.
Okay.
And if they didn't do it, they didn't get the money, which means then they had less money to spend. So if we went out to eat and I said you had to buy your own drink, they're like, "Ugh."
See, like this is such
Not
a
gonna
great
do that.
plan, but like I just know with her talking, like I would never follow through on this plan because I started so many charts. I had so many things. I went to Lakeshore, whatever learning center. I bought the charts that's like when you're in school. We did it for like a week, and then somebody would steal the stars and put them all in and stuff, and then I would just be like too distracted, or I don't know what happened. Like you have to be like you're very good at like making your kids follow through, right? The parenting part
Yeah,
is
you do
like
have to be
so
consistent.
important because it's not just about putting the structure together. It's like the implementation of the structure, right? And I think that's actually what's happening that's so hard is like when you have two working parents all the time and people are doing things and you're running and you have maybe more than one kid, it's like, or you don't, and you're just trying to like get through every day. It's like the last thing you're remembering is the charts. And great, this is somewhere else I let my kids down because I probably just stopped doing the chart and they were sitting there waiting for stars.
We're not beating ourselves up, Gemma. We're
Yeah,
trying
not
to
gonna beat
learn.
each other up
Oh
at
my
all,
goodness,
no.
you're so primitive. I know. We're as parents, we all feel that
Just
way.
know
though.
that you did what you knew how to do.
Oh my God, it's so
Yeah.
crazy. But how awesome if you can teach your kids from a young age, then you don't have to go through that hurdle of like trying to get them on board after they're already like 10. Like if you can just start when they're little, from the beginning where it's like, here's your allowance. Now you pay 50 cents out of your $3. Now you pay 25 cents for food and you make them separate their things. Like I've seen those like on TikTok or whatever. And I'm like, that is so brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
How old were your kids when you decided to revise the family plan?
Yeah, I think they were around 7, 8, 9, 10, around that age.
Yeah.
And I put them on payroll. So
Payroll.
if you have your own business, you can hire your children legally.
Yeah, right?
Love it.
Absolutely. That's how they start saving.
Yeah,
is.
and they
Yeah.
learn about. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So I feel like younger kids would be more on board with it. Like then it becomes a game. Like
Yeah,
you're
it's
playing
just fun.
Monopoly. You can buy things and you earn your money. And then once they get past a certain age, they feel just so entitled that trying to turn back time would be so difficult.
Yeah, like how do you even? I mean, I tried so many things like once it was too late.
Once it was too late.
And it was like, and even now, because my son's 24 and he lives at home, and we're like, I mean, and like, how do you even? It's just such a hard position to be in because, like, and I realize that I didn't lay the foundation, when I was incapable and now I'm capable, but now he's too old. It's like
No,
crazy,
it's
right?
not true.
And it's so nuts, but he's like 24, and I'm like, well, you're like a grown man now. So, like, I don't understand why you don't want to just cover your own bills. Like,
but now
do
he's
you
a
feel
grown
any
man, he
pride in
can
this?
do your money on purpose coaching
Yeah, like,
and say like this
hear
is what you should be
seriously.
responsible for as a grown man, right?
Right. As long as you're going to follow through with it.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. I think at this point, just the process of meeting with a coach and
Yeah.
being like aware by somebody else outside of the family that like your way of living right now is totally insane. Like, you know
hear
what
it
I
from
mean? Like, just
someone
getting a
else.
third party to speak for you is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a parent, because sometimes, like, I know you, like, you and me, like, I don't think we're like very good at confronting our kids with this stuff.
No, I'm
Yeah.
terrible. And I would say that mine started, my daughter, I had domestic violence in my household, like Gemma. and then both of our husbands died. And after that, Kennedy was 5, my daughter, and it was like, can I get an iPad? Sure. Can I get a dog? Sure.
It's the
Can I
guilt
get this? Like
money.
it was
The
just
guilt
like
money.
me just
Yeah.
band-aiding everything while I was healing.
That's what I
But it
did.
became a constant, it
Right.
Yeah.
was just me trying to put an emotional band-aid on with money.
And then
Yeah.
they get older, and then you try to change it because now you realize it's out of control, and the changing it is like insane. They're like running away. My daughter just left. Like that was it. Like that's it. I'm leaving, and I mean, she came back like a couple days later, but like,
If I can't have what I want, I'm
but
leaving.
yeah, but in that moment, I thought she was really leaving. Like,
Well, of course they're going to challenge us, right? Because
yeah,
nobody really likes change, but we know that change is good for us.
yeah,
And when you're consistent, you think about, okay, this is actually what's best for them because they're going to be functioning adults. Like if I don't deal with this, society's going to have to deal with this. And then
yes.
it leads to debt and it leads to just financial turmoil if we don't deal with it.
And it's so hard too. And I think like, especially now for young kids too, like the idea of a money coach is so important because not only do they not teach this stuff in school, like why they don't teach people how to like, I don't know, fill out their IRS forms or like any of the things that like you actually have to do to be a functioning member of society is like not taught in school. You're like up to your own devices. And then now we have parents that like my age that like maybe we didn't even learn that. Right. And then you're like, I mean, when I was little, I didn't know any of those things to teach my kids. I
Yeah.
had my kids in my 20s, and it was like, I don't even think I knew the proper way to handle anything. I mean, I owned a business at a young age, but man, it was a mess. I had to hire somebody to fix up all my taxes. It was like $8,000 to get somebody to go through all of my stuff because I did everything wrong. Like, literally, I mean, I learned the hard way. Like, and so it's like, why don't they say, like, all these people starting businesses online, who's teaching them how to do their taxes? What's happening with all of these t-shirt companies and people that are making income and sending the things and like who knows how to fill what out or
Yeah.
make their P&Ls or even know where their business is out or not commingle their funds. And like then you hit 40 and you're like, oh my God, I should have figured all that out. Like I think money coaching like for kids is literally probably more important than even adults. Like when I say kids, I mean like starting 12 years old,
Yeah.
you could send
Yeah.
them to a day camp or something that teaches finances.
I actually have a really cool video game for them.
Really?
Yes,
Ooh,
it
that's
is a lot of
exciting.
fun. It is. And
What is it?
it's called Money Mavericks and it was developed by coaches. So
Love
there's
that.
no like it's not by a credit card company or bank. So there's
I
none
love
of that
that.
stuff in there. But it really just puts them so it starts at age 15 and a half because that's when we can legally work and it all the way up to bird launching.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
changing my language.
Getting out of the nest.
getting everybody out of the nest.
Bird
But-
launching.
I love
Yeah,
it.
bird
Bird
launching.
launching.
Bird launching right now.
Oh
It's so
my
sad.
God. You
It
are
is
bird
sad.
launching.
It is sad. But
You're swan
what it
launching, Taylor.
does-
There you go. That's what I'm scared about. I love Money Mavericks. That's such a cool name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a cool name, and they get to have their little avatar and pick their job, but they go through the whole application process. And so it puts decisions in front of them, and they get to make the decision. So it's like, okay, if you finance this car, this is what happens. This is how long it takes to pay it off. Or if you just pay cash, this is what happens. And
my
it really teaches
gosh.
them real life consequences without real life consequences.
My gosh. Okay, so does like Sims and all those other video games, do they have like real money things in those video games? Or is that something that you could like
Well,
add into a video game that where
he-
people could earn more points to like actually live real life financial decisions?
I mean, when Kennedy was little, Club Penguin was around. But Club Penguin, you bought your igloo, you bought your accessories like for your house. But on this one, do you have a job and you get
You can
paid a
pick-
certain amount?
You can pick a job and it'll say, do you want a job that has flexible hours or structured hours?
That's wild.
And just, helping them to think about all these things that they're going to face because, if you're in retail, who knows when you're going to be working, right?
Yeah.
But if you're working somewhere like an office, you're going to have a set amount of hours. But what works best for your personality and your schedule, that's something they get to choose.
I love that.
And do they show up online and check in for their job, or what keeps them accountable for they get a paycheck?
Yeah, so it'll say you got paid today, and then you have a spending plan.
Mhm.
And what's also really cool about this game is that it has a happiness wheel. So you tell the game what you value. Do you value family time? Do you value savings? And your choices will make that happiness wheel go up or down.
Oh.
And if you go down too low, you literally die. And
Oh my.
And there's that.
and if you think about it, like
If you
don't-
go down too low, you
Yeah, if you go down
literally
too low,
die.
like, you die. But if you think about it, if we're not doing the things that are important
It's
to us
true.
with money and that we value, we get depressed. We
Yeah.
get
Of
sad.
course.
It is
Yeah.
true.
So we want to make sure we're having a balance, right? Because we have bills we have to pay, we have to save for our future, but we
Right.
also have to enjoy our life.
Right. That's
Yeah.
the hard part. I just go for the joy, and then and then I have dread and doom in the back of my head of
That's what a lot
what's
of
going to
us
happen in 40 years.
do.
I don't know. Oh my God, but I really got to go to this concert in
Right,
Vegas. It's
right.
only 800 a ticket.
Instant gratification.
Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
a serious problem.
It really is.
Really
Well,
is.
and I mean, we all know whenever you do I just saw this is called like crisis shopping or something. It's when you
Crisis
go through
shopping.
something, and you try to, again, put a band-aid on it
Yeah.
by going and buying something. And in the moment, you feel a little euphoria. And then the next day, you're just more depressed because you just overspent
That
when you were
happened to my
already
girlfriend.
depressed.
Yes.
That happened to my girlfriend, my best friend. Like, so she got hit by a car, like legitimately her body, like she almost died, but she did get like a settlement, and it was like $800,000, lasted her 2 years. Her husband divorced her at the same time.
Oh gosh.
And I feel like if that didn't happen, it would have been a different story, because I think it's like, and they had kids and things like that. And it was just like so much emotionally to go through, like get hit by a car, have this physical recovery that goes on forever. And then she just like, and then she got the settlement, and then she was like buying things and doing things. And there was just like no long-term planning. And like now you're like, and now she'll be like, I don't know what the hell I did. And I'm like, well, I think you were like in PTSD mode, and you were like just doing whatever, like not really thinking it through. And you go buy a car for 100,000, you go buy whatever else for
Yeah.
100,000. Your friends, you have a boyfriend who doesn't care about your finances, and you're buying all his friends like Disneyland passes and doing all the things. And
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
that's a hard no.
yeah, right. That's like a hard no, right? Like, and she's like, that'd be fun. I mean, it's like I had a lot of fun, but like you
Yeah.
could have bought a house or 3 houses and rentals and like set yourself up for eternity. And now it's just like you're in that crisis spending mode. What did you call it?
I think crisis
Yeah.
spending. I was just
Crisis
reading about it.
spending.
Yeah.
Which I think that I literally witnessed it. Like, I think that's 100% what it was, for sure. And even when Jake and I started having like a bunch of issues, and I owned the store and we were making a bunch of money and I did well online, I was like buying designer bags, and I was like doing all
Yeah.
this stuff, but I was completely ignoring my issues by shopping, like
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And when I
So
stopped shopping, I started eating. So
yeah, I
bad.
think we
It's
have
true.
just really, we're not aware of the things we do, and we're just skating through life. We're not
Yeah.
even we're not thriving. We're just like going through life in this
Yeah.
numb state because we don't want to feel things. Because you know what? Things happen and life sucks a lot.
Yeah, and things are hard.
And things are hard.
Yeah.
But we have to think about our future, right? And think about if it's hard now and we spend all our money now,
Yeah.
it's gonna really suck when it's time to retire.
And what's
Like,
worse
then
is you
what are you gonna
can't
do?
walk. Like, if I'm gonna be homeless, I would rather be homeless now than when I'm 80.
Yeah.
Like, can I just be homeless when I, can sleep on a park bench without waking up and everything's crickling and crackling? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's true. Like, there's nothing
Let's
worse than
just
seeing
not
like
be
an old
homeless.
homeless person.
I know it's
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
It's
And
heartbreaking.
it is because you think, what decisions did they make
Right.
that got them there?
Yes,
You
yeah,
know,
I
and
think
that
it every
yeah,
time.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
it's like,
upset.
what happened? But I always feel like I'm just one bad decision away from that. Like, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
mean, we all are in
like that's the
reality.
thing. You can't judge
That's why it
anybody.
touches us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
it does touch you, because like, I mean, my dad has an office in Santa Ana off of Standard, and we have a ton of homeless people out there. And there's one lady in particular that always wears a blonde wig. And she's got this blonde wig, and multiple times she's out there just yelling at the wall. I'm telling you, she's yelling at the wall. The other day I saw her out there just hitting this thing with a wall. She's clearly mentally ill now, but she wasn't always. And something happened
Yeah.
where she didn't get help, or she didn't have family support, or she didn't have any support, or she had a bad relationship, or some crap went wrong that she couldn't recover from. And we always talk about, oh, broken hearts, get over it, or, or this happens, get over it. Not everybody is equipped to get over it. Like, some things actually happen, and you do get trapped, like, in that mental state.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like that easy. Not everyone can just be like, I succeeded and now I'm this motivational speaker and everything is great. Like, no, I mean, stuff really hurts people.
Yeah, it does. And I
Yeah.
think when we tell people that, it's really a disservice. We need to make it normal for people to grieve or go through
Yes.
something
Right.
and release the trauma, because when we bury that trauma, we get sick, we get disease, we
Yeah.
get mentally ill. Like, so much stuff
It just
happens to
manifests
us.
in so many
Yes,
ways.
because the body keeps score, right?
Yeah.
Our
Oh,
trauma
I
goes
like that.
somewhere if it's not going out.
100%. I think that's just a big deal. And it's just like those little things, like all those homeless people or whatever, something just went wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, to think like, because I have friends that are like, oh my God, why don't they get a job? Or like, and like, I get it. But I also like used to take cases of water with our church down to the Angel Stadium in the ravine over there, and you'd be surprised how many of those people literally ride bikes and have regular jobs, but they just can't afford a place to live, and they
Yeah.
can't afford to even get out of the state. So it's like, what do you do when like a one-room apartment's 2,400 and you're not married and you don't have kids, you don't have dual income, and you've been on a 4-year waiting list for affordable housing, and now you're like, I have a job, I work full time, but I'm like living in a tent in the ravine because I can't afford to live here.
Yeah.
It's like such a big problem, right? And it's like finances is part of it, but it's like, and that's why it's important for us to set ourselves up and teach our children because like it's getting harder. Society's getting harder. The financial situation's getting worse. We don't know what's going to happen, like with the dollar and food supply and all these different things,
Yeah.
right? There's literally
Yeah.
money's a big thing in the US right now.
Yeah.
And so I think like teaching kids early to set themselves up is probably like the best gift you could give.
I
Don't
mean,
you
it
think?
is, but if you
Yeah.
didn't and you haven't, then now is the
Like
best time.
me.
Right now, do it now.
Yeah.
I'm starting right now.
Right? Better late than
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
Better late than never. Yes, I
Yes.
love that.
I think attaching one of my mentors, we were talking about mentors earlier today, used to say money doesn't buy happiness, it buys convenience. And so for me, I grew up with a single mom in Oklahoma. And if my grandparents would have needed extreme medical care or a jet to fly them to Mayo Clinic, it
Yeah.
wasn't something that my mother and I could have handled doing. Now, some of my friends that have wealth, extreme wealth, they have that luxury of saying, if my family needs something, they're going to Switzerland for the best treatment. And I
Right.
think that kind of security is what I long for
Mm.
with finances, is just knowing that I'll be able to take
It's
care of anyone
security.
around me that needs it. When I was growing up, I was obsessed with fashion. Again, like single mom in Oklahoma, worked all the time. And I used to tear out black and white fashion magazine ads, and I would staple them, much to my mother's chagrin, all over my entire wall, as big as this screen behind us was all just black and white fashion ads. And I
Right.
thought, if I can wear Carolina Herrera, Prada, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, like all these things, this is like the pinnacle of happiness. And
Right.
then when I moved to Beverly Hills and was on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I've worn every designer that was on my wall. And I can
Yeah.
tell you they were the most miserable years of my life.
Mm.
And
Right.
so it was a very big realization to me, that thinking as a young person that all that money is going to make me happy really came crashing down.
Mhm.
And that's something that I think young people, with all the social media and
Mhm.
everything they're seeing every day, have this belief that if I live in this house and have this car and these clothes, then I'm going to
Or
have
this many
happiness.
followers.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
the thing also is
Or
that
you're
we
just
have to
happy.
define what happiness is to us. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? What does financial stability look like, right? Because material things don't bring that to us. Yeah, probably feels good to buy it, like I can
Right.
afford this. But what really do we value?
And also the different levels of financial stability.
Yeah.
It's like if you come from, say, like a single mom, like maybe your idea of financial stability is like a 2-bedroom apartment instead of one, where like maybe if you were lucky enough to grow in a home, it's owning your own home. And then maybe if you already had your own home, maybe it's like, I want to buy an apartment building. So it's like, it's so funny because like the struggle's the same, the reach for the dreams are the same, but sometimes it's just different levels based on where you came from.
Yeah.
It's like, but everybody, like all people, want that next level of something that feels stable. And I think it's that whole fear stability thing, right? It's like when I accomplish this, I won't be afraid anymore. Or when I get to this level, like I will, something magical is going to happen. What's really interesting to me, because I've been very wealthy and very broke and in between and gone back and forth and based on my own decisions. But I think it's just realizing that like literally all of that isn't anything. Is if you have food and shelter and good people, it's like the most important thing. But
Mhm.
you do need to set yourself up for retirement so you can take care of other people. And then once you have kids, all you want to do is take care of your kids. And now I'm a grandma. And as you know, because you're grandma too,
Yes.
you then worry about your grandkids.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my gosh. So as long as you're set up, the most important thing is like setting yourself up and your family with some kind of stability, that to where they don't have to feel afraid at like any point of like, where am I going to go? Where am I going to be? And
Yeah.
like that's what scares me with everything happening in real estate is like generations, like my kids. And it's not that it's an excuse to not try. Like you should always try, but it's like I can see how kids are depressed because it looks like an insurmountable goal, right?
Yeah.
When you're like, okay, even if I go to college and I become a doctor and I make 150,000 a year, I'm still never going to be able to buy a $1.5 million house. And everything where we live is is a $1.5 million.
Yeah.
So then they have to move away from their family, away from their support system just to be able to accomplish the American dream, which is obviously slowly dying
Well, and
with
there's the
homeownership.
problem. What is the American dream? You
Yeah.
have to define that for yourself, not
Right.
what society tells us, not what we think it is. Having the designer things doesn't mean that
Right.
we've made it,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of people who have those things that we see are actually in a ton of debt.
No,
I knew
most
of a
of them.
guy
Yeah.
who had this beautiful mansion, had all the things. He literally couldn't put gas in his Maserati, okay? Like,
It's so
I know, I'm sure you
true.
get all the people. I'm sure you get all the people,
yeah.
all different kinds of people.
So we have to think about, again, what's important to us, what drives us,
Right.
right? And I think as we start to make money, we may think it's all the designer clothes, but then we realize, no, it's actually having stability for my family, making sure that I could take care of them if something was to happen.
But I had to lose everything, literally, like my house. Like I had to lose everything to come to the conclusion to where those things weren't important anymore.
Yeah.
So like they were important to me, like the designer bag, the nice house, like all the things, like, the perception or whatever. And then I had to like lose everything, go through personal hell, get to the other side of that. And like I feel like I'm like right now at the best place I've been mentally probably my whole life, because it's like you get to the other side and it's like, okay, well, you get to keep the lessons, but then you're
Mhm.
not distracted by the shiny things
Yeah.
anymore. And I feel like it's a really nice place to be. But I think it's like sometimes you do have to learn the hard way
Yeah.
to like,
True.
sometimes you do have to like
It's true.
lose everything and
Yeah.
be like, hey, why did I spend $8,000 on a limited edition Louis Vuitton? That was stupid. Or why did I do that? I mean, unless you're a multimillionaire and you're set and you've got the
Yeah.
20 million in the bank and you're living off your residuals and your kids are taken care of, go ahead and buy the $8,000 whatever and the $30,000 watch. But if you're like even on a large budget and you're like wondering, hey, how do I afford my rent? How do I afford my 3 car payments, $1,000, $1,500 each, and all these things that aren't actually affecting your life, that, you're affecting your own life just for the perception of people that don't care about you.
And people you don't even like.
And they don't even like you.
Exactly.
They don't like you. You don't like them. And you're wondering, and you still
Yeah,
want them to think a
exactly.
certain way of you.
Yeah.
And when you finally let go of it, it's like, oh God, thank you, Jesus. Let me
Right.
just set that brick down
Exactly.
because I don't need to carry it.
Exactly.
When you and your husband just made these decisions to make this switch, you said $56,000 in debt. Do you think it was, or you tell me, were you buying things that you didn't need, or what were the things that were your pitfalls at the time?
That's a great question. I have no idea what we spent that money on.
Okay.
Yeah, just that's me too.
I
I'm
don't
just like, I
know.
mean, I know except for the bags that I then sold on
And
Poshmark, but
and that was a couple of times after we've already been in and
doing
out of
it.
debt. Yeah. I don't know what we spent that on. And
Yeah.
usually when we use credit cards, it's on nothing.
It's like
It's
going
like,
out to eat or you did something
yeah, and
stupid or
then
you
you're
bought or
paying
whatever.
like 20-30% interest on freaking McDonald's. Like,
It's ridiculous. I know.
So,
It's like literally like what happened?
Yeah.
what was the
Yeah.
first step you took to say, okay, this is day one,
Yeah.
step one of what we're going to do to change this?
What are we gonna do?
What is our money on purpose going to do for us?
yeah, it was becoming aware of what I was doing, looking at it, which is scary, right? We had to pull out, well, we don't get them in the mail anymore, right?
Yeah.
Now we have to actually go and print them out, our bank statements,
Yeah,
right?
right. Like actually figure that's
And
part of the
not-
problem.
And not checking our checking account to see, oh, can I do this? Because
Yeah.
maybe something's going to come through you forgot about. That's
Right.
not how we're supposed to live. That's stressful. I
Right.
did that for a long time. I'm like, oh, let me move money. Let me do this. Let me do that. But becoming aware, like, what am I doing with my money? Where is it going? And stop, like you said earlier, commingling my business and personal finances.
That was my biggest problem for years. It was like, oh, I'm just gonna get these promotional shirts or I'm just gonna buy this whatever. And next thing you know, like I'm actually spending $10,000 on marketing and I'm like, it's a bunch of crap. And then it ends up in my garage and then
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. And I'm like, what, what is that?
Right.
Like I didn't sit there and plan it. And so that's why whenever I'm meeting with people too, like to do their marketing budgets or whatever, it's like, what is this really? Before you start being like, look at these cute pens I bought for $250. And then I did this and then I bought this booth and I went here and I marketed there and I spent 5,000 on ads that I didn't hire a professional for. And I just started using Meta. I don't know, because I thought I could. And, and pretty soon you've spent all this money and you're like, what did I just do? Like, I
Yeah.
don't even know what I just did.
Yeah. And that's where we
Yeah.
have to become intentional, right? We have to have
Intentional,
intention
on purpose.
on purpose. Yes, we have to spend our money on purpose.
Did you lay down ground rules with your family? Like, we're only going to go out to dinner once a week, or did you make hard and steadfast rules in the beginning when you're making these changes?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Because we ate out a lot. I mean, we were busy. I was homeschooling, running a business, and the kids had stuff to do. So we
And
were
eating
all over
out
it.
is okay,
It's
I have to say that's
expensive.
where okay, when we started looking at our budget, the eating out is what was the most shocking to me when you actually like get your bank statement, and you look at all of it and you're like, okay, and I'm always like, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke. And then I'm like, I made $20,000 this month. I made $15,000 this month. Like the worst month I had like in 1 year was still $7,000. And it's like, how? Like, how is that possible? And then you're like, you look at it and it's like, oh my God, it's all food.
Yeah.
And then like I don't even eat the food. I like order the food. And then Starbucks especially. I think 1 month we spent like almost $900 like as a family on Starbucks.
Yeah.
Okay? That's one family.
Yeah.
What? I mean, I'm sorry, but like it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
It is. Like I
I
should be
agree.
ashamed of myself. Like literally
Absolutely not. Don't
you
say
look at it though,
that.
but no, literally. And then you order the drink. They're not kidding when they say first sip feeling because I
The first sip feeling. It's
like,
so true.
you
My
order
daughter has
it.
half empty,
Yeah.
like they're just
Yeah, whoever finishes their Starbucks. Like
uh,
but you're not ordering like a venti or something,
I
right? Like
do.
you do. Oh my
but
God.
I just get I get the ice cold brew, but my daughter will get like the really
The
sugary sweet ones, and then she'll
Oh,
have like 3 sips, and then she can't drink the rest
but it's
because
like
it's like
25
too
bucks.
much.
Or so
Exactly.
you check out 25
and so
bucks.
what
And
happens
then you
if
do
you
it 3 times a
saved that
week.
money, right? Or invested
I
that
can't even
money?
think about it. It's so
Like, I'm
upsetting.
like, well, if you're spending that much money, hopefully you invested in Starbucks and you're making some money off the money you're spending.
Exactly.
But what's done is done. And again, we just, we're always looking for that feel good feeling, right? And
Yeah.
we're trying to do what everybody else is doing instead of actually focusing on what's important to us.
Right.
And
In all those years.
we're getting in financial turmoil trying to keep up with the Joneses who are actually broke when you catch
No,
up
they
with them.
really are. Like the majority of everybody is broke. And so I think it's just like so weird. It's a weird thing, right? And then we go around and around.
I know I want to know like 3 action items. If there is a family
Yes.
out there or even an individual right now that could
Yeah.
do 3 things even over the course of the next month
Yeah.
Yeah.
to
What
make
would
a
it be?
difference, what would those be?
Well, like I
The
said, the
biggest
first thing is to
difference.
become aware. Look at what you're doing, write it down, look at it, not to beat yourself up,
Yeah.
but to become aware and say, okay, I've spent a little too much here, or I want to spend my money here, and then make a plan.
Yeah.
Write it down. Don't get a budget because we don't like that word.
No.
It's not fun. A spending plan actually puts us in control and we get to tell our money where to go
Right.
because we're writing it all out. And I would say with that, look at your finances as an annual perspective, not a monthly, because we spend annually when we think about it. We have birthdays, we have holidays, we
Yeah.
have events, we have memberships, license, whatever it is.
I think that's the slow bleed that you don't realize is happening too.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
it
Because
is.
we do parties, it's like so and so's birthday, especially with like your daughter too. Like Kennedy's like younger and she has events and she has things that come up and they're going here with one friend, they're going there for another friend. And if you have like 5 or 8 friends, you're spending several $1,000s a year just on birthdays. That's not like Christmas and other things
Right,
happening,
right.
right?
And there's a statistic, I think between October and January, we spend like $1.4 trillion on 4 days.
Is that
It's
crazy?
so true.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
It's
So it
that's
comes
And like
out
what is that for?
well, I mean, because I will
It's like
costumes,
consumerism.
candy, food,
Yeah.
decorations.
The
huge Thanksgiving
decorations.
parties, huge Christmas parties, gifts, and it's always more gifts than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
That would be hard for me to
Well,
like write down. I'm only going to spend this much on Christmas.
Well,
yeah,
what
right. You're
I
like,
do is
that's
I
it. Because
have
you
a
probably like to
list.
go all out. I like to go all out.
No, I do too, and I love
Yeah.
to spend, especially on my family. I love to give gifts.
The more the
But I
merrier.
made a list, and now that they're older, they just accept cash, so it makes it easier.
Yeah.
But
Here's
I
cash.
have a list, and I've weeded people off because it's like,
Yeah.
why am I buying all
I
these
did
people
that
a
too this
gift?
last
Like,
couple years.
that's crazy. But how much do I want to spend on that person?
Yeah.
And then I've done family gifts where it's like, okay, my sisters get a family gift.
Right.
And they can all enjoy it and be a family and do something together, right? Have an experience together.
So I've done a lot of that lately
I
too.
love
Like
that.
even my godson just turned 3 and I was like, I'm gonna take him to the Discovery Center and spend the day. Like, like I would rather spend my money on that. At least he has a picture of like, this is my godmother. You know what I mean? She took me to the Discovery Center like 20 years from now. But like rather than here's another toy to go in your pile of 5,000
Mhm.
toys that you don't even know who they came from
Yeah.
or what they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like there has to be some kind of personal connection
Yeah,
to
and we really
something.
need to get back to that, right? Like
Yeah.
experiences. And whenever I pick up my grandson, we go do something. We have an
Yeah.
adventure. We get donuts. We find a really cool donut place. We get donuts. We go to the zoo or we do whatever and just
Something
have an
fun.
experience. And then at the end of the year, for Christmas, I get him a book and it's called The Adventures of Jason and Grammy. And
Oh,
he's
You have to
just,
do that with your
I love it
grandson.
yeah.
Oh, I
actually.
And
love
he's like,
that.
I didn't know how he was going to react. And he just loves it. And he's like, my adventure book. And
Oh
so all
Oh
the
my
my
things we did
that's
throughout
God.
the years. And then,
awesome.
I
yeah.
love that. See, it's like so much, we get so distracted. And I think people are so distracted about what they want. Like even kids, like the idea of making like a Christmas list or graduation list. Penny knew a list when she went away to college. Like, like my daughter has like a wish list. My best friend, one of my best friends has a wish list for her daughter who just turned 3. So she had her birthday party and she sends her Amazon wish list. And I was like, I don't know, is this like normal now or is this like presumptuous or like what is this? Like is that just part of like how it should work now? Like should we all just have wish lists that we send each other like cuz we expect you to buy us something for whatever holiday?
Oh my gosh, it's
Well, I
like a
think it helps because
wedding.
It is like a
everybody
wedding.
says, what do they want? Right.
Yeah.
And so it helps. Like, here's some things
What do you
they
want?
want or they need or whatever it is. Right.
How
So
many
weird.
kids do you have?
So we have a blended family of 7.
Okay, so I'm curious about this with big families. I'm an only child, my daughter's an only child. Do you give the same amount of gifts, same amount of money in gifts to every person? The same amount of count of gifts? How does that
Yes.
all
So
work?
that's a great question. Before, I would just buy, you got one big gift and then you get all these little gifts. And I was like, oh, this person has 6 and everybody has 5. So let me go buy everybody 6.
Yeah.
I mean, why didn't I just take that one away? Right.
Yeah, right. Why didn't I take
So
that
everybody
one
had to
away?
get the same amount of gifts. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now they all get the same amount of cash.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, well that's good.
And when did you start cash?
Probably when they were like 17, 18.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
for
that
the
makes
cash.
sense. Yeah, the
Because
cash.
otherwise I get wrapped up in it and then I'm like, oh, that is so cute. Oh, like when
Yeah.
it comes to holiday
Right.
time, and then she sends me like a ton of stuff, my daughter, and then I'm like, oh, well, she does need that. And then she does need that. And then I was gonna get her one electric bike, but she should have 2 because then if she has a friend over, so
Right,
then the whole thing just
exactly.
spins
Oh
out of
my
control.
gosh.
And then
Yeah.
which really happened when she
Yeah.
wanted an e-bike. And then I'm like, well, what if
Yes.
she has a friend over? They have to have an e-bike too. And then,
Yeah,
and
like,
then she has
we should
8
just get 8.
she has 8 best
8 e-
friends. So what am I gonna do? Does everybody get an e-bike? And then
Yeah,
but
that's
I'm
what's
horrible
happening.
at that because I just fall in love with the idea of giving to her.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like on you actually.
100%.
And like that's me too. Like I would buy stuff. I mean, I spoiled the heck out of my daughter, but really it was because like I don't know, nobody spoiled the heck out of me or something. And so
Yes.
like
And
I
that's
just want to
exactly
keep
where it
giving it.
starts.
And that's where it happens because
Yes.
it's like I'm not really giving. She could care less. Like I just destroyed the whole thing because I just want to keep giving to her whatever I felt like wasn't given to me.
Yes.
It's like a weird thing.
No, it's not. It's actually perfectly normal.
Yeah.
It is exactly what happens to us. So between the ages of 0 and 7, our subconscious is developed. We have no say in it. We're
Yeah.
just absorbers. And so all that stuff is put into our
It's
brains
crazy.
and out comes this person, right? And then our habits and behaviors come from that. And
Yeah.
if we don't say, what am I doing here? Where is this coming from? And changing
Mhm.
it, we're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah, you have to have that self-dialogue.
Yeah.
Well, and going back to the conversation we were having earlier about my childhood, my mom always struggled, and my father wasn't in the picture, and so my mom was always working, and I think that that's where a lot of my money fears come from, is watching my mom have to work so hard
Yeah.
that I overcompensate with my daughter,
Yeah.
and then secondarily think like all I care about is security forever because my mom it never felt like my
Me
mom
too.
had it. It's just I want to make sure I can always have a house, and Kennedy's always going to have a house, and generational wealth is important, which
Right.
goes back to if you don't take care of your money now, you're not going to be able to create generational wealth
Yes.
because you're just throwing it
Yes.
out the door.
Yeah, which is scary because now we're in a point where like a lot of young people can't even afford to live, much less save. So like what happens in 30, 40, 50 years, like when everyone's like, well, I couldn't really save and the social security system's gone and now where are we all going to live? I mean, like
Well,
I'm
yeah.
a little
We don't know
worried.
what's going to happen.
I
but
don't, but I'm so worried.
also, we have to teach our children good habits or they're going to
Yeah.
spend the money. So when we think about, they call them trust fund babies.
Yeah.
I actually just took on a client that spent her whole trust fund. And now she's like, I don't know now she's pulling out of her retirement. And I'm just like, I'm trying to stop the bleeding. Like we're trying to stop it and get those habits and behaviors to change. And she's been that way for so long.
That it's
But
hard.
if we don't teach them how to use the money, how to respect the money, they're going to lose everything we worked for.
I think it's respecting the money. What you just said
Mhm.
also is that we don't realize that money is a time exchange, and we only have so much time on the earth, right? And we don't know what that is. And so when you're earning money, if you're an earner, like you're exchanging your time for money. And so like I know like when I give somebody my money, I'm giving them my time because I had to work for it,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that that's like an important thing that kids, especially my kids, I know for sure, have had a really a hard time with is earning understanding that like I'm not just giving you this. Like I had to work for this. My day's sacrifice for this. I leave in the morning, I come home at night. Like I'm running around and doing all the things and like that's so that I can provide for you. And so it's like, but for them, it's like they're just getting it. So it's like they don't have like the connection to the time. And then
Mhm.
when they do go get a job, their paychecks are auto deposited. They're using a card or their phone, like tap, tap, tap. They're
Mhm.
tapping the $6 coffee, they're tapping the $25 meal or whatever. And there's no like physical or like
Connection.
connection. And I feel like that's just like, it's really bad, I
Yeah,
think,
they did it on
actually.
purpose.
I think it's like
They
literally
did.
done on
So
purpose.
there's a study that shows when we use cash, we have pain receptors that go off in our brain. And
That's
when we
wild.
swipe plastic, we're brain dead.
I believe that
Yeah.
100%.
Because
We're
the minute
not
I stop using
feeling
cash, it's like,
anything. Yeah.
yeah, like when I have $100 bill in my pocket and I have to go spend it, I'm like, I don't really need that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
100% agree. Like when you feel the cash, it changes your perception. That's
Yeah.
so interesting. There was a study on it. The thing that terrifies me about my daughter and her best friends all going away to college is I remember when I went away, I had credit card offers like
Yep.
crazy. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is genius. I'm like,
Yeah.
we're all going on spring break. We all got the credit cards. We
Yeah.
all, we just
Ran them
used them
up.
like
And no one tells
crazy.
them they have to pay it back.
No, and then I went to work for Pfizer and my interest rates were like in the 30%. And
Mm.
I would get my bill and just pay the minimum and I would just see it and I would think, I am never going to be able to pay this off
Yeah.
ever. Like,
Yeah.
as long as I live.
Like you're
Because
trapped
you just,
now.
they had me totally trapped. But these college kids that get all these credit card offers, I am going to have to just warn Kennedy and just be like, I will get you a credit card that I can keep my eye on because well, she has a credit card that I can keep my eye on. But it's just, I feel like it's almost abusive that they
Mhm.
send these children all these
Well, yeah.
Where do
opportunities.
you think all the money loans are, the payday loans?
Well, and they don't have
They're
to
in
ask
poor
your permission.
communities, right? And people get caught up in those payday loans, which should be illegal because it's like 100 to
It's
150%
like,
interest.
it's ridiculous.
It just,
Ridiculous. When we were younger, my husband took
it's
a couple of those
criminal.
and I was like, what are you
Yes.
doing?
Yeah,
Like,
but
that's just insane. There's nothing we need bad enough to like take a payday loan.
so I'd be curious, speaking about like actual physical money, dollars that no one or change. Anytime I get change given to me, I'm totally puzzled. I'm like, what do I do with this? I
You,
just
don't you put it in your glass jar?
I put it in my cup holder until the guy claims
It
the car and then it's
becomes,
just gone. I'm like, I
yeah.
don't even know. I had like 35 cents in there. I don't even know why we have that anymore. But I wonder if it would be more beneficial for young people to send them physical cash and let them see the exchange of money as opposed to plastic.
I feel
Yeah.
100% that's how you budget them. You're like, okay. And like, I do believe in that whole envelope system too, where you're like,
Yes.
here's $100, you need $500, you separate it. Like, here's your school, here's your
Mhm.
food, here's your gas, whatever. That's all you're getting. So when you don't figure it out, you don't. And so the first month, they're not going to figure it out. And this is what happened with Hannah too, because we
And you
did
have
like
to
whole
let them
thing.
feel the pain.
Yeah. So it was harder for me
I
to
know,
say
I
no than
know.
for her.
So hard.
It was harder for me for sure. Like when she called me, she's like, I don't have any money. We don't have any food. I'm like, well, you'll have to figure it out.
Well, they can go to the
Like,
food bank.
so hard. Like you figure it out.
Go to the food
Okay.
bank.
She did.
Can you walk my daughter through this? Or have some, you're gonna have to have ramen. I mean, I
Oh
don't
my
know. She's
gosh.
moving into an apartment and she's all of a sudden thinks she's gonna cook, which she's like the queen of DoorDash. So I can't wait to see how this goes now. But I like the idea of the cash, sending real cash. I mean, not through the
Yeah.
mail, but leaving her with
Yeah.
a certain amount of
Yes.
cash.
Yeah. You're like, this is how much you get for this long. Well, don't
Yeah.
give her too much up front
No, because
she
it's a
will call.
realistic feeling.
Yeah. It's
Well,
like, this
giving
is
her
it.
like a paycheck would work. Like every 2 weeks, you would give her a little bit, right?
Oh, I like it. Like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, because
Get
that's
like
like
a
what happens
paycheck.
when we get a job. We don't
Mm.
get paid right away. Although
Yeah.
there's apps that are doing that, which are driving me nuts. But
Well, now
they're
you can pay like 2% to get your paycheck ahead of time.
it's ridiculous.
So it's-
It's not. Ooh. Let's not talk about that.
Okay, so
It's going to make our problem worse. But
Yeah.
just giving them a little bit at a time so that they can kind of start getting that feeling like, okay, this isn't always there. Like
Yeah.
I have to make this last for 2 weeks, and
Right.
then I'll get a little bit more. But what do I need in these 2 weeks? So allocating like what bills are coming out, what
Yeah.
has to be paid,
And
what do
maybe
I need this
do.
money for? How much food do I need? And what envelopes or a spending plan does is it creates freedom for us to spend money, but it also creates boundaries. Like, okay, we said
That's the
we
important
we
thing right
wanted
there.
to, eating out is important to us.
Yeah.
That's fine. We want to spend $300 a month eating out because we like to do, it's our family time, whatever it is for you.
Right.
But that is our boundary. It's $300. So if we decide we're going to go to a really nice restaurant once,
Yeah.
or are we going to go to a couple of
Right.
medium restaurants a couple of times? We
Right.
get to
Like you
make those
choose.
choices. It gives us the power back to be able to make those
And then you
choices.
just hold off. Like you have to be uncomfortable for a couple days till your next round of month comes and you get to go out again. Like you just have to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable for a couple days. Like why can we not
Yes.
just be
Yes,
uncomfortable
we've
for a
gotten away
couple
from that, right? We've
days?
gotten away from that.
I'm uncomfortable.
So
And,
do you have online courses where people can learn about these things or digital assets? How can people get these big, great pieces of information that we're not even scratching the surface on?
I know that literally she needs like a full 12-week seminar
I
or
know,
like
I know.
seriously. Yeah.
I do have one course out. It's called 3 Steps to Making Your Money Behave.
Okay.
You gotta
Super
make it
affordable.
behave.
It's $47. You
Awesome.
just go on
Yeah.
there. You could do it in like half an hour.
Where do you
Yeah.
find it?
yourmoneonpurpose.com.
I love it.
I
Your
love
money
it.
on
I know.
purpose.
You're like a wealth of information. I love Dawnette.
I know. We
She
have to
speaks
have
all
more
over.
time with you, though. I feel
Oh,
like there's so many levels to this because I think finances in relationships,
Finances
finances with your kids, but even finances in friendships, because I have had a lot of extremely wealthy friends and then, some friends that are
Right.
not. And what does that look like when
When you're
your
going
extremely
out.
wealthy friends, you go out with them and they're ordering a $500 bottle of wine and then everyone wants to split the check and then people maybe feel like they don't want to come because they don't want to feel
Yeah.
subjected to that.
Yeah.
There's so many layers
I
to
know.
this.
I
We're
feel
gonna
like
have
I
to,
have that friend too.
yeah. I have several.
You're like, the bill is $1,500.
And I'm like,
No, we're
I don't
not
even
splitting
drink
it.
wine. Like,
I didn't even drink it.
I wasn't even having wine. But anyway,
I
okay.
know.
Well, will you please come back?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I would love
Okay.
to.
I
we
love
adore
it.
you.
I love it.
Oh.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
thank you so
We'll
much.
do money and martinis again. soon.
Money
Yes,
and
money and
martinis.
martinis.
That's what we're
Okay,
doing. Yeah,
cheers.
Here, your
There
money
you
and your
go.
martinis
You
on
guys
purpose.
go. Cheers. Thank you, guys.
It all has a reason.